Alright, so I've got to try to fabricate a new throttle valve cable for the 700R4 in Steve's car here. So I had made that when I worked on this car at his house, and it was just kind of crudely made out of an original bracket here, but I added some pieces to it to make it work. And I used two existing holes in the intake. It doesn't really work now because I had him get a phenolic carb spacer so we don't get any, fuel boil or anything with ethanol fuel. So that raised it up a little bit, and then also the geometry corrector bracket that's on the side of the carburetor changed the location here. So this is where a TV cable goes on now. It was here, so that's a pretty good difference in, it's backing up just a little bit. So I got to go up, the distance of the spacer and the distance of this, because what's happening is I can't get the correct adjustment on this now because it just doesn't adjust correctly. So I'm going to have to alter this to move it back, but also up. But the cable coming out of this is going at an angle upwards. So if it's left down low and this up high on the carburetor, the in and out movement of that cable will eventually wear through the upper top piece of that TV cable. So I got to make a new one. All right, so I got just a remnant of sheet metal here, and it's the same thickness that the bracket is made from. So I'm gonna basically cut out a little L piece full length, and then I've got to do some bending on it. My sheet metal break, I got to drill a hole in it and all kinds of stuff. So get started on cutting it off. Alright, so I've got to get this in line, so I'm trying to figure out where to mark my hole to drill for that forward piece. More measurements. Well, I got it bolted on there. I still got to go back and clean it up and paint it and all that kind of stuff, but this is it's pretty good. I mean, it's not perfection, but it's in line. And then on a 700R4, 204R transmissions, overdrive, GM overdrives, that TV cable has to be hooked up or it will burn the transmission up very, very quickly. So the base adjustment is wide open throttle with no more slack in that cable. So it has that push button right here on the cable that you push in, and the inside of this will come in and out. So I've got this adjusted perfectly. There's no slack in it. So that is a base adjustment for setting it up. And do not forget your throttle geometry corrector bracket. This is pretty important to get that transmission to shift properly, because just a little bit of adjustment on that will make it shift differently. Now, you can take it up one notch tighter and it'll make it shift a little bit harder. I know that from experience, but it pretty much has you at the end a wide open throttle when you do that anyway for base adjustment. But I've always just set them up base adjustment and they've been good to go for me. So especially just a daily driver style, or a driver style, not necessarily daily, but for a driver style. But that is pretty much it. I'm happy with it. I think it'll end up working out pretty good. So what I was trying to figure out is if I can drill a big hole in the center of my gusset I put in there and put a rubber grommet on it, and I can run the vacuum hose for the power brake booster over through that and then straight up to this right here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Looks like it's going to have it kind of going over the valve cover pretty firm, but these Tri-5 Chevys, when you go to putting power brakes and overdrive transmission and that type of stuff, and you still have your mechanical throttle linkage on here, it gets kind of a tight area for space, because now the throttle stuff needs to be hooked up, and that's pretty close, or that is going to be pretty close to everything kind of together. And this cable is going to have to be something done with it for it to work right here. I have to take this out quite a ways. It's going to take a while. Well, this TV cable is creating all kinds of issues. So it's really long. Like, I really don't know. I've never seen a TV cable on a 700 that long. But it gets up against the throttle linkage and it's going to stick the throttle or bind up something. So it goes. I can get it over on the other side, and it's got a lot of slack, so it's not like it's too tight over there on this side of the throttle linkage. So this works and it completely clears everything of it. I don't want to just push it over there and leave it, so I decided to build a little bracket. I'm still going to trim this end off and around the edges and stuff, and I may actually drill the hole a little bit further inboard and then cut this top off. I haven't decided yet, but I took the top bolt out of the throttle linkage, and what I'm thinking is, with this little universal clamp with another button head Allen, I think I can clamp the TV cable on that and have that off of that like that. So might not be able to see it. It might be too dark. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit shorter. Actually, it doesn't, because the nut and bolt on the back side of it's sticking out, and I don't want it to get into the firewall. So I might just leave it like that and kind of bend it a little bit. So I might bend it into a 45, since this is kind of a 45 angle. Like, I'll bend it. I think that'll work. Let's just find out here. So I'm going to do this one-handed. That'll get it off the firewall. I don't know, I'll keep messing with it. I'll think of something. I think I'm on the right track here, just gonna take a little bit more fab work. All right, so I've been trying to figure out a way to put a vent inside this battery box, and I looked around online at some hollow bolts I looked at some differential vent bolts, that type of stuff, and everything's kind of pricey, and then you got to pay shipping and all that kind of crap. You know, with gas over $3 a gallon, if I drove downtown just looking for something, I may or may not find it and waste, you know, a good hour or so of time or more, and the fuel in my truck just driving down there. So I kind of went through the garage just looking for crap. I didn't really go through the garage. I've got like a bunch of miscellaneous hardware garbage, and this is kind of what I come up with. Luckily this was laying over there, and I cut it off because it was about, I don't know, about 8 inches long. Anyway, this is, the end of it's cracked, and it looks like it's single flared. It's nothing I'm going to ever use, but this was in that box of crap that I dumped out. This is an antenna nut is what this is, and it's actually chewed up around the edge, which I don't really care. And then I found this little rig here. I've actually found 2 of these. This one, I have the Banjo chrome tube that goes to a carburetor for this one, but I don't have it for this. So anyway, this will probably never get used. This is for carburetor as well, but this kind of looks a little bit trick. So what I think I'm going to do is just drill a hole right down the center, like an 1/8 inch hole right down the center of that, because it doesn't have to go very far. This is pretty much hollow to about right here where my thumbnail is. So I only got to drill a little bit because that's pretty far down in there. So I can drill a hole through that, and then I'll drill a hole the diameter of the thread on this, and it actually has a shoulder down there which is the same size as that. And anyway, I'll drill the hole in the floor, and then I'll run this up through the bottom. So this will be sticking up through the battery box, and then I'm going to take this piece of tubing and stick on here, and then this antenna nut. This antenna nut has the same thread, and it screws all the way down, and when these are put together, when I snug that down, it tightens up on that flare. And all it is a vent. It's just a vent. There's no fluid going to be going through it or anything like that. But this will be sticking up out of that battery box in there on the bottom, like down in here. And I've got this K&N filter here I had Steve pick up. So this is what will be in the battery box for it to vent. Now, before anybody says it or thinks it, I'm not mounting this on the bottom of the car like this. The reason is, if he's driving in the rainstorm, this will get full of water, and that's like a cup on the end of that. It'll just hold water the depth of this. So not going to be mounting it underneath. So it needs to be mounted inside, but with a little bitty vent hole in that. This will look, you'll see this on the bottom of the car. He's not going to be worrying about putting mirrors under this at car shows or anything like that. But anyway, if it's on a lift or something somewhere, the, you know, exhaust shop, or you know, tires, or somebody's doing something under it, they'll see this. That's all they'll see under there, and I think that looks kind of nice because it is chrome. So I do have a couple of nylon little washers that was actually on that, but in case I need them anyway. But that's what I'm going to put up through the deal for a vent in there, and then this will go inside the battery box, sticking up just like that. So kind of neat. Now you can buy these little cone filters. This is actually a 3/8. It's for 3/8 tubing, and which is what this is. And you can get these at your local parts stores, like my local AutoZone, Advance Auto, and O'Reilly's have these on the shelf. Not K&N, they're just an off-brand, Spectra, I think. But anyway, they're about the same price as this. Steve got this at Amazon with free shipping, and I think it was like $14 or $11 or $12 or something for K&N. So if you're a detail guy like me, like that K&N embossed logo, I mean, for the same price, and they ship it to you, you don't have to drive to the store and use up your gas and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was a pretty nice deal. So anyway, I'm going to get started. All right, got the little K&N filter mounted in there. So it looks pretty decent under there, but that's what it looks like with just the little carburetor fitting. Looks kind of nice. That'll work. And didn't spend any money. And I didn't have to drive anywhere, because I think I'm almost out of gas, and I'd have to stop and get gas in my truck, and I don't feel like it. Alright, lots of stuff bolted on and plugged in. I've got to run a wire to the oil pressure sending unit, because he has the Classic Instruments cluster that I have to put in. But anyway, all the linkage stuff's done. I'm getting full throttle. Nothing's getting in a bind so far. Now I've got, I'm going to clean up the plug wires a little bit more once we get it final timed and set with the light. That way I can kind of, you know, get these to where they're, put some loom clamps up here. Some of those 4-prong ones to hold, that'll hold 4 wires. And that'll kind of, you know, get these together and kind of spaced pretty nice. But I'm going to wait until we time it because we're going to be turning that distributor. And then this is most likely the vacuum line for the Advance is going to have to be trimmed down. But I'm going to wait until it's final timed. I do not have a long enough piece of hose to go to the intake to the booster. So I'm going to have to go get some of that at the parts store. And the fuel line, the braided fuel line kit, after getting the 2 correct fittings on there, that one fitting was, it took 2 fittings to do that. There was a 1-piece swivel fitting and it was, golly, $50 or something crazy. So this one was a little bit cheaper, but I had to go with 2 pieces, which is fine for, you know, AN especially. But it allowed me to mix up the colors, so it looks pretty cool with the red and blue anodized. Anyway, that one fitting was like $13 or something, and the other one was like 24 or something. Those AN fittings are crazy, man. But the problem that I've kind of ran into is the way this is coming out. Now I don't have it tight yet, but I can get it down a little bit so it's off of that hose, but it's kind of putting a little bit of more pressure on here, so I don't really know. Maybe I need a 45-degree fitting to come off of this, or a 90 or something. I have to be cautious of the port here, because when we do put the vintage air kit on, it's going to need that water port for the heater hose. So that has to be clear, which it is right now. But anyway, I don't know. I'd kind of like to, I don't really know a way to put this out of the way. I could build a bracket with a, you know, a nice clamp to go up here and hold on to that. But there's no holes in these cylinder heads, so I can't really do anything there. So this is going to take a little bit more thought process here. But I don't know, I could probably put this to come up in between here, but I think this is going to be right up against the water pump there. Man, I don't really want to bust the water pump bolts, either one of them loose, to put a bracket off of it to go on here, because I've already got this sealed up and everything, and I don't want to take a chance of it leaking, you know, after if I took the bolt out to put a bracket on there or something, or a stud, and then, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'll have to put a little bit more thought into that and I'll figure it out. Now there's one thing that I am 99.9% positive of here that is not going to fly, and I think that is his stock starter. That is, I mean, that is close to that header. I don't even know if you could get a piece of cardboard through there, but what this is going to do, it's just going to heat soak that solenoid. So after it's started and ran and driven and the engine's up to operating temperature and everything, once that solenoid gets hot, the car won't want to start until that solenoid cools back down. And at this point, I don't even know if there's enough room to put any wrap on the header. So I guess I need to jack it back up and get underneath it and look. If there's room to put some header wrap on here, I might try that. But I've tried heat shields before that bolt on here for the solenoid heat shields, and they don't work. The one I tried didn't work. The only cure-all fix-all that I've had good luck with is going with a mini starter. And, you know, with the compression and everything, it's probably a good idea anyway, so I might run it by him just to get a mini starter. But I kind of really probably need to go ahead and wrap this anyway. So I don't know, I might have to take the header back off and wrap it and then stick it back on there, but dang it. All right, guys, so it is Saturday, and I washed out the inside of this with a garden hose because it was filthy nasty. So I thought I would do kind of a walk around again, I guess. The trunk is pretty gnarly. I mean, It does have a few little spots of rust through here and there, kind of throughout up in there, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Anyway, so this is the inside after washing it, because all down in those little braces and stuff, there's still stuff packed down here, but this was all packed full over here and down in all the little beads and everything. It was just kind of a mess. What the heck? Is that dome light on? My dome light's on. What's up with that? Close the door. Yeah, sure enough. What's up with that? Huh. Maybe I should see if it'll start. I don't know, I might check the spark plugs here real quick and see. No, there's no engine. What the heck is going on? Ain't that something? So I was basically wanting to do a little video on dome light stuff, and just kind of a little walkthrough type of thing, and explain it a little bit to some people. But anyway, I cleaned up the chrome bezel with a little bit of Mother's and 4/0 steel wool, and then wiped it off, and then I actually got the dome lens off without breaking it, which I thought was amazing, and I washed it. It's all yellowed out, but it's still okay. So dome light system's pretty easy to hook up. It's basically power and ground, but it has to be the body ground. It can't be directly to the battery. So that's, I mean, it's pretty basic. Orange is power and white is ground. So anyway, if you hook up your, like on the harness, you'll see over here it has orange and white, and it runs down on a sedan and a hardtop. It runs down over there and down through the back of the body back there. And anyway, if you hook up just the power and ground to that, to the battery, like the white to the negative post on the battery and the orange to the positive post on the battery, and as soon as you touch it, that dome light's going to come on if the bulb's good and all the connections are good. So you have to basically go through your switches through your ground first. It has to go all through that. So on this, I just have the orange going directly to a battery that I got hidden in this box right here. It's a little bitty motorcycle battery. And then the actual pink wire was just a remnant I had laying in there. And I just did a self driller into the body right there, and it goes directly to the negative post on the battery. So anyway, I have the wire rerouted because it's supposed to run from this side. It runs up and then along underneath here. There's some fold over tabs underneath the cowl under there, and that white wire goes over there, and it's all teed in over there. Anyway, I just basically run it up through the top up here and then over and teed it into the wire there. But I just thought it'd kind of make a funny video. I don't know, I'm just silly like that.